doors that open to walls, stairs that lead to nowhere, and enough ghost stories to make anyone curious. Is the Winchester Mystery House really haunted? Is it all a scam? Or has the place just been sucked dry from the millions of people who've been there? Welcome to the Meli LynnLee Variety Show, where today I'm telling you a story about the time I visited the Winchester Mystery House. When I visit a location that's a haunted tourist destination, I'm immediately skeptical upon arrival.
If you came here to kill me, clap your hands.
So many places try to use hauntings to bring in the crowds because, just like me, so many people are fascinated by the paranormal. But not everyone can see and experience things the way that I do.
Don't ask me how I did it, I just did it. It was hard.
I'm a strange combination of believer and skeptic because while I do experience that spiritual world, I'm never going to jump to conclusions of, oh, it's ghosts. I'm always going to try and prove something as being physical phenomenon before I even start to consider spiritual phenomenon. For those of you who want to go on your own investigations and have your own paranormal experiences, there's a few tools that I would recommend taking when you decide to go. Now, on my show, my goal is to show you some cool places and tell you the things I see, but also to prep you for if you decide you want to go on your own adventures.
Welcome to a show about death.
But most TV shows about ghosts and the paranormal, they have this whole array and this whole abundant stack of tools that they take, mostly because they're looking for evidence and mostly because they want to prove that, oh, there's something here. But the reality is, especially if you're just starting out, you don't really need all that stuff. Most of the stuff that you actually need is stuff that everybody has on them anyways. First thing, you need a recorder, a digital recorder. You can get that in your smartphone. Second thing you need is a camera, a decent camera. Once again, smartphone. The third thing you don't really need, but if you want to get fancy with it, I'll put a picture of what mine looks like here. It's basically a selfie stick with a tripod on the end of it. I got mine at Walmart for 15 bucks. Don't break the bank. You don't need to buy the fancy stuff. The one other item that I would recommend you bring, and this is the most important item, is an item with significant protection power. This is the one item that you must never, ever, ever forget.
Ever, ever, ever.
Now, this can be a cross necklace, a piece of jewelry with a symbol on it, a Bible from your particular religion. Many items will do. If you're not spiritual or you're not religious, that's okay. If you still want to investigate, you could just take something else. Like maybe, I don't know, the knife your grandpa gave you. Something that's going to make you feel safe. Because the point of it is to make you feel safe. I highly recommend a cross of some kind, mostly just because for my particular faith, it has been shown that even if you do not believe, the power of a cross is still going to protect you. I have a Nahamit cross tattooed on my arm here, as you can see, but it doubles as a cross of Christ. And therefore, my item is not something I can really forget to bring. So pack your bags, grab your crucifix, and let's go on an adventure into the Winchester Mystery House. I arrived at the location, took a deep breath, and let the energy kind of rush around me as it does. But the first thing that I noticed, which kind of surprised me, is it's in the middle of the city.
You said you were going on some spiritual retreat.
Namaste.
And you're supposed to be dead.
I got better?
It's obviously a huge tourist destination, and it certainly looks like one. But something didn't feel right about the place. For those of you who don't know the story, Sarah Winchester was the wife of William Winchester, who was the main man behind the Winchester rifle, which many know as the gun that won the West. The story goes that after their child, as well as William himself, passed away, Sarah was basically overtaken with grief, as any woman would be. But Sarah was different because supposedly she was also haunted by the ghosts of the people killed by the Winchester rifle. And so she moved to California and built this huge mansion in order to try and escape said ghosts that were haunting her. At least that's the story. Now, as someone who is an author and literally a storyteller by trade, I recognize a good story when I hear one.
I'm not shy, I'll say it.
And as I stepped out of the car and up to this gorgeous mansion of a place, one thing caught my attention that was increasingly annoying and very confusing to me. millions of people have visited this place. Like, I should be picking up some kind of energy, right? Like, at the very least, the people who visit, the people who work there. But there was nothing. It was entirely void of energy, which was weird. The entryway leads into like a little gift shop and then immediately out into the gardens where they have you gather to take you on your tour. But even out in the garden, as gorgeous as it was, I love flowers. It was so gorgeous. There was still no energy. Like, you'd expect there to be something. Like, it was such a pretty place, but the energy was just like desolate. Not like a ghost town, which we'll talk about later, but like a void. It was like something was sucking up all of the energy in the area into a vacuum. But it wasn't like I got exhausted or felt like pulled in that direction, which happens to me pretty often. There was just nothing at all. This was different. It was unlike anything I've ever seen or felt before, because having me feel nothing was weird. There was no ghosts walking down the halls. There was no auras or energies or anything. The location was absolutely beautiful, and the whole thing is one giant antique. But even the energy of the people who work there or the people who visit was non-existent. They walked my 5-person group into the house through the different hallways, and at the very beginning, I noticed something that most people probably wouldn't notice until the end of the tour. The mansion does have doors that lead to walls and stairs that like lead into the ceiling, but it's not nearly as complicated as they make it sound. Despite the mansion being quite large, it's not nearly as confusing as you're made to believe. They rope off certain walkways so that, for example, instead of taking a left and then a right and now you're in the next room, you take 3 lefts and then a right, and then you turn around and walk back into the room you just came out of to go 2 more lefts and then a right, and then now suddenly you're in this other room when you could have just gone like doot doot and been next door. They want you to take as many steps as possible to get to the next viewing area. I don't know what the purpose of that is, but that's definitely what they were doing. If you don't have a good sense of direction, you will be turned around and confused by the time you're halfway through the building. They took us through the seance room, and I almost laughed at like the plastic candles hanging from the ceiling, as mean as that might be.
You don't even know that nobody even likes bullies!
But as someone who can definitely appreciate the theatrics, I might have rolled my eyes a little bit. They took us through the bedrooms and they took us through the bathrooms, and every once in a while they'd allude to the 13 holes in the sink and the 13 tiles and the 13 windows, and while I do think that 13 is a significant number in terms of spiritualism, I don't think it necessarily makes a place haunted. We wandered through the mansion for like an hour, and I got a killer leg workout on the little old lady stairs that Sarah had installed to make moving through the mansion easier. But I never saw, heard, or felt anything that made me think the place could be haunted. It's a gorgeous house, and the architecture is absolutely beautiful. They put on a really good show, but that's just it. It's just a show. I walked through 110 of 160 rooms of the house, and I felt absolutely no energy. The place has either been sucked dry of any ghosts that were previously there, or they were never there to begin with. I have never been to an area that was so void of energy. And so unless there's something hiding in the basement, which I did not get to see, that is like sucking the place dry of energy and feeding off of the energy of the people who visit, which I seriously doubt, the Winchester Mystery House is not haunted. At least it wasn't when I was there last week.
Is it haunted? Well, it wasn't when I walked through it.
Now, I will admit it's a gorgeous location with very friendly staff who put on an amazing show, but I think that's all it is. I think it's just a show. Of course, if I had such a beautiful house, I would want to show it off too. The way the structures and rooms are designed are absolutely incredible. It gave me some ideas for my future house. Anyone with an eye for detail would absolutely love to see this location. Highly recommend at least once. It is a giant antique house, and it's beautiful. Just keep your expectations realistic, and don't expect to see any ghosts in the area. There are multiple different kinds of spirits that we've talked about in different videos. But what happens often is people sometimes misidentify haunted locations when really there's something that I refer to as hallowed locations. Haunted assumes that there is active energy consistently moving around a location that is being experienced, seen, or felt by people on a consistent basis. A hallowed location is when a place just doesn't feel right. There's just something about it that's not right, and no one can really explain what that is. Usually when this happens, one of two things is the culprit. One, there's some kind of portal or something that's sucking up all the energy and making this place feel void. That might be the case with the Winchester house, but I think it's probably option number 2. Option number 2, there's so many entities or consciousness moving around a location that they suck up any available energy. In this particular case, humans count as conscious entities. Millions of people come to see this place, and as they move through, they take a little bit of the energy with them. The Winchester Mystery House isn't necessarily a scam for thinking that their mansion is haunted. Although, I have heard a lot of people say that the whole story is just like made up. Which is always a possibility, but there's not usually smoke without fire. I believe in this case, the mansion's not so much haunted as it is hollowed. The area surrounding the mansion consists of big city skyscrapers and very busy highways, and people buzzing all over the place going about their lives. Making it a tourist destination only furthers the hollowing by inviting in humans who take away energy with them and absorb it every second they're in the area. And it's just a house, like it's one house. It can't hold that much energy. The energy there is finite. And at this point, it's basically gone. But I came to California looking for a ghost, and I wasn't leaving till I found one. And 24 hours later, I got my wish. I took a little detour the next day over to a place I'd heard about from a friend. Nevada City is a beautiful old gold mining town that was populated between the 1840s and 1860s, mostly consisting of miners and their families. When the gold dried up, they all left. What remains is a self-proclaimed ghost town located 60 miles northeast of Sacramento. Whoa, try saying that 5 times fast. Wrapped in ponderosa pine trees and Victoria-era looking houses is one of the prettiest towns in Northern California. And as a bonus, it's definitely haunted. Not only are there fewer people in the area to hollow it out, but the emotional intensity of the miners and their families that live there, as well as the Native Americans who lived there for thousands of years before them, creates this cocktail combination to create a haunting of just beautiful proportions.
Monster! Try looking in the mirror!
The old churches, saloons, and old theater house have so much character and so much energy, and it just bounces off the streets of the city. Like, it's just all over the place, most of which manifests in these like colored strings that I can see, mostly green, yellow, blue, and a little bit of violet. But occasionally, as I was walking down the street, I saw images and echoes of people who lived there before. I saw the stories that they left behind for us to experience. Most of these people, by the way, who have probably been dead for at least 100, probably more years. Nevada City is less of a city and more of an outpost for people passing through. And that is where you find the real ghosts. Unfortunately, I didn't get to stay as long as I wanted to, but of course I bought some souvenirs because, duh. But seeing this place reestablished my hope in my little adventure. It showed me that, not every place is going to be haunted, but be it haunted or hollowed, I still get to show you some cool places. My next adventure is coming up very soon, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, subscribe below, and if you'd like to support or donate to the channel, I'll put my Cash App at the bottom of the screen for you. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. I love you all so much. God bless. And Nidoken Nahamo. See you in the stars.